relationship any further unless we sort out this story about Jimmy Blue Blue and Robbie Anderson. And they say to me, well, you know, we're unhappy with your performance, and if you're going to take that attitude, you can take your things and leave right now.
But your performance in which way about writing the article? Nothing else about your performance?
They raised all sorts of issues. They said, this is, I mean, I can quote the human rights resources person said, "What am I doing on a Friday night at the West End talking to someone like Robbie Jansen? Aren't I contradicting myself as a Jew?"
What's that got to do with anything?
Well, you see, this is the thing, is that as far as I'm concerned, I should have been reading my Talmud and my Torah on a Friday night, and I shouldn't be writing about things that don't concern me. So there's an allegation of anti-Semitism now as well, because as far as I'm concerned, what I do on a Friday night is between me and my Friday night.
Friends in the courthouse are going to make this Lewis case disappear.
No worries, Jack. I know my shares in a Resolve group of companies won't influence my decision in any way.
I have plenty more to influence events around here with our recent financial services merger.
Speaking of which, how much is my partner's stake in Momentum Metropolitan worth anyway?
We are just partners. Nobody will suspect a thing. Besides, we have Max Sisulu on our side. As head of Sanlam, we control Nispers, which controls Media 24, which controls the division which fired Lewis.
The public must never know what music legend Robbie Jansen had to say about Jimmy Lulu. It would result in the collapse of the carefully crafted political dispensation,
which allows us to earn enormous profits while forgetting about truth and reconciliation. Lewis had no right to question our failure to come clean at the TRC.
Besides, his beliefs are not genuine enough to be considered by somebody as esteemed as me. Your version of events must always be preferred.
So we understand each other then. Nobody will ever know the truth about apartheid. The evidence will be fixed to reflect a different truth. A truth in which our corporation is the winner and continues to make profits regardless.
It's been a pleasure doing business with you. Our company shares clients, partners and investments in several key areas, including technology, psychometric testing software and labor dispute management.
Yes, our ongoing business relationship must continue. Psychology's magazine will provide all the details on how you can win over the public trust. Do your bit and I will do mine.
I mean, the period when the press was most free was about the mid-19th century. I mean, at that time, just keeping to say England and the United States, the two cases that have been studied, I imagine it's the same elsewhere. In the mid-19th century, there was a very lively, popular press, very widely read by, working people, by everyone, but, much reached far beyond the commercial media at the time. It was very diverse. It represented, it reflected public interest and public concerns, and was very popular. In Britain, they tried to close it down by censorship of various kinds, but that didn't work. There were too many ways to avoid it, and it was finally understood that the way to eliminate it was by advertising, by reliance on advertising and by concentration of capital. So just through the effect of reliance on advertising, which was then just a kind of beginning, like around a century ago, and concentration of capital, they realized that over time they could marginalize the independent popular press, which couldn't get the advertising, of course, because advertisers don't like what they were saying, and didn't have the capital. And it took a long time. So in England, it was actually up until about 40 years ago, still the case 40 years ago that the main newspaper in England, the Daily Herald, was a kind of labor-oriented, social democratic newspaper, very popular. Everybody had outsold all the others. The Mirror, which was the main tabloid, was the same, kind of leftist paper, popular paper. But they kind of succumbed to advertising pressure and capital control. The United States happened a bit earlier, but it was the same process. And advertising is, it's part of a much bigger industry. Advertising is part of the public relations industry, which is a huge industry. And it developed very consciously around the First World War in the two most democratic countries, England and the United States. And there's a good reason for it. They were coming as the countries were becoming more free, that just through popular struggle, and people were winning the franchise, and you couldn't shut them up anymore by force. It was understood that you're going to have to control people by controlling opinion and attitudes, because we can't rely on force anymore. And control of opinion and attitudes means...
I just want to give you an example of what's in this filing sheet, just to give you an example of what this case is about. Statement of the facts that we relied on to establish evidence came. At pt2, a system / policy exists in terms of which it caters to and maintains previously segregated areas by printing newspapers that comply with racial profiling and thus uphold racial divisions. And the above discriminates against the applicant and that inter alia compliance with him with the above policy is contrary to his religious and political views. So there's an allegation that essentially there's a system of policy or system of segregation at pt2. I can testify to the fact that if you walk into the VP Kuranta newsroom, you'll find a very interesting situation. It's the multiracial mecca that P.W. Botha invented, where you have white people working for white titles, colored people working for colored titles, and black people working for black titles. If you're black, you can't write for a colored title or a white title. If you're colored, you can possibly work. There's a sort of a
small overlap.
Is a colored person a white person? There's this kind of like weird thing of like, what is white or colored? My first-hand experience was that I was categorized as a colored. They said, well, this guy's obviously thrown his lot in with the Clearlander. So we'll let him sub the coloured newspaper, and he can supply a story about a coloured to the coloured target market. And in fact, we'll be so bold, we'll let him sub a story for the black target market, but he's not allowed to write stories for the City Vision, the all-black newspaper. This is their multiracial utopia of we're all one nation. As long as we maintain our distinct racial profiles. And the people who kind of fall in between the gaps, those are the people who essentially show up the contradictions of the system. This is the problem of apartheid. It never worked, because what happens if you have a black and coloured parent? What happens if one of your ancestors is white? It's ridiculous that we are still faced with this, that it's legal, that they're allowed to essentially get away with a form of racial segregation in their newsroom. This is what the New South Africa is all about. It's about own affairs. This is what we fought for, own affairs. What's mine is mine, what's yours is also mine. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we hold on to our last vestiges of power in the Cape. And I really believe that I wouldn't be having this problem if I wasn't living in the Cape. I think any other province, this problem would have gone away. Only in Cape Town do we have the last vestiges of apartheid, with this attempt to essentially hold on to a particular racially charged, sort of segregated worldview. where I've got a letter from the TRC saying that no, this company didn't even bother to make a submission.
Lights are on, but there's nobody home.
That's right.
And that's the norm, not the exception. What is going on out there?
Well, first of all, let's not even talk about the content of what is on television. Let's just talk about watching a lighted box, all right? A lighted box is like watching a hypnotist who has a light. It's a flickering light, and it will actually put the brain into waves that are the hypnotic waves. If you take a person who has never watched television at all, and you put them in front of a television set, it will take 45 minutes before their brain will enter into hypnotic waves. If you put that same person in front of a television set the next night, it will only take 5 minutes before they become hypnotized by the flickering light. And the following day, the third day, they will go into these hypnotic waves in 5 seconds. TV is the greatest thing that has destroyed every nation in the world, because every show will propagandize.